Leon, we've tracked more than 24 cases where people have died or nearly died after getting silicone injections. And in many, other victims had gone to the hospital with serious medical problems, sometimes years earlier. But doctors who treated those patients were not required to call police, even though all cosmetic silicone injections are illegal.
I remember being so excited. I just couldn't wait.
Taylor Chandler got her first shots of silicone in her late teens. She'd been working as a model and wanted to enhance parts of her body.
I had silicone injected into my hips and buttocks. I had it in my lips, my cheeks, my chin.
She first heard about the procedure from her close friend Deanna Roberts, who Taylor says not only got silicone shots, but later started injecting it into others, including Taylor.
The results were amazing, and you couldn't really tell that you'd had work done.
But then she started hearing about the problems, botched procedures with serious deformities, or worse, patients showing up at hospitals around the country with silicone that traveled through their bloodstream to their lungs. Letitia Chantel never made it to the hospital. Chantel posted on Facebook thanking Deanna Roberts for, quote, filling her completely up the night before she died.
It's a very, very sad, tragic case. Individuals that have been lied to and told that they are getting an approved FDA product.
FDA investigators found Roberts traveled to Chantel's home in Georgia and injected her buttocks with industrial-grade silicone. They say Roberts had ordered at least 178 gallons of it from an Arizona business, injecting hundreds of victims over the years.
We know there were instances where people were hospitalized and it didn't get reported.
That means the FDA doesn't know how many deaths or injuries silicone injections have caused. The News 4i team identified at least 24 cases in recent years, including several right here at home. Like Vinnie Taylor, who's serving 14 years in prison after injecting a woman in a Prince George's County hotel room. She died a few days later. Kendra Westmoreland pleaded guilty last year, admitting she injected silicone into thousands of clients. A Virginia man says he got his silicone injections from this woman in North Carolina.
I just passed out, and I woke up 15 days later on life support in the hospital.
Taylor says she knows dozens of people in the D.C. area who've tried it.
This could be anybody. This could be your sister, your mother, your brother, your uncle.
The I-Team found plenty of websites selling industrial-grade silicone, no questions asked. In fact, we ordered some by the gallon. The company Deanna Roberts used did have us sign an affidavit saying we wouldn't knowingly use it for injection into any areas of the human body. Investigators say Roberts signed that form too.
Did that help you prosecute?
It did. It did. In our case, it showed intent on the part of Deanna Roberts.
She's now serving 11 years in federal prison. At her sentencing, witnesses testified several of her clients had gone to the hospital years before Letitia Chantel's death. But the I-Team found even though all cosmetic silicone injections are illegal, hospitals are not required to tell the FDA or any other law enforcement when a victim comes in.
It would be very helpful to have the information. These individuals don't want to be found out about. They're trying to keep things very secretive.
She says oftentimes investigators don't get called until someone has died, which can still happen years after the injections if the silicone travels through the body.
I really believe that it needs to be looked into further. So if someone does come in the hospital, doctors are required to alert local authorities.
Taylor says the same should be true for plastic surgeons whose patients want silicone removed. She spent roughly $50,000 on painful surgeries to remove as much of it as she can, now that she knows how dangerous it can be.
I just think if I'd only never had it done, I could have saved myself so much time and effort. But I wanted that perfection that so many women do.
The FDA told me many of the people who give these injections tell clients they're licensed. There is no license to inject silicone for cosmetic purposes, not even medical grade. Until now, Donna Francis has never been publicly identified as an accused killer. When we started investigating the death from silicone injections, we found a trail of frustrated detectives, a suspect fighting her return to the U.S., and a friend of the victim with a message for anyone else considering getting a backroom backside.
Wanna get a man look just like this? It'll get you rich, it'll get you famous.
As a young woman in the music world, Ray Shine feels the pressure to be a sex symbol.
Anytime you see success in a woman rapper or R&B singer, it seems like they have a certain body type, you know, where certain areas are exaggerated.
And if you don't naturally have those features,
There's pressure to get breast implants or, you know, get your butt enhanced, to get shots, things like that. So it's tough.
So tough that she wrote about it in her new song.
Make it stand light, get shots, be plastic. Change your appearance, yeah, let's get drastic.
Those shots she's referring to are silicone injections to enhance buttocks and other parts of the body. But they're dangerous and often deadly.
When I wrote those lyrics, I was thinking about Kelly and the pressure of every young girl.
Kelly Mayu died in May 2015 after driving with her mom from Maryland to this house in Queens, New York.
The so-called doctor was operating out of her basement apartment in a private house.
Detectives say Kelly had gotten silicone injections several times before, but this time the oily substance traveled through her bloodstream. She stopped breathing as her mother held her hand, begging the suspect to help her daughter.
And as this girl was dying on the floor, she was cleaning up everything.
The woman who did the injections made her getaway while Kelly's mother called 911 and began CPR.
It was very traumatic for her, but she was very good and very particular on everything she observed and remembered.
Police say they used cell phone records to help identify Donna Francis, and Kelly's mom picked her out of a photo lineup.
Mom will never forget this woman's face, ever.
But by the time police went to arrest Francis, she was already gone. Half a world away. The woman accused fled here to London, where she's now fighting efforts to return to the U.S. and stand trial.
It's frustrating. Once she was identified and fled, our hands were tied.
More than a year after Kelly's death, New York police obtained this arrest warrant for criminally negligent homicide. But it would take another 11 months for London police to arrest Donna Francis at her new job as a driver for a hospital.
I'm trying to find Donna Francis. Is she home?
The I-team tracked her to 2 different houses. A neighbor confirmed she lives in this one across the street.
Why are you recording me?
We finally caught up with her as she arrived at a London courthouse wearing an ankle monitor. The judge continued her extradition hearing until March.
Miss Francis?
And she refused to answer any of our questions.
Ma'am, we just want to hear your side of the story. Do you have anything to say to Kelly Mayu's family?
It does not matter how long, she's not getting away with it.
But the U.S. Food and Drug Administration fears many people who give silicone injections do get away with it.
It is a growing problem.
The FDA is so concerned about the rise of cases like Kelly's, it's now warning the public.
Any silicone loosely in the body can cause damage and can cause death and serious injury.
The shots are not FDA approved, not even when given in a spa or a doctor's office.
There is no quote-unquote safe type of liquid silicone for body contouring.
Make it stand light, get shots, be plastic.
Ray Shine says she never knew her friend Kelly was getting injections until after she was gone.
She was so full of life and love, and her energy, like, her hugs were so amazing.
Ray hopes her listeners will hear her message.
I need to express to other young ladies that you don't have to go this route. Told her whole life that she wasn't pretty.
And she prays Kelly's case will help prevent the next death in this dangerous trend.
I hope that justice will be served.
Kelly deserves that.
She definitely does. And every other girl who's had this happen to her.
Just like this, it'll get you rich, it'll get you famous, idolize the stars with a...
We reached out to Kelly Mayu's family members who said they're still too upset to talk about her case. Now, police say their effort to get Donna Francis back here to the U.S. to stand trial could take months or even years, and there's no guarantee the London court will make her come back at all. While we were investigating these backroom backsides, we noticed an alarming pattern. Law enforcement was almost never called in until after someone had died, even though in almost all of the cases, earlier victims had been treated for serious health effects. Now, one key group of doctors wants to help fix that.
Our members' number one concern is patient safety. And nipping it in the bud before it happens is number one.
As a past president of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, Dr. Malcolm Roth knows the dangers of silicone injections. The oily liquid, when injected freely into the body for contouring, can travel through the bloodstream into your lungs and kill you. Even many years later, it can cause severe disfigurement, scarring, and other health effects.
I think we can certainly think about how to better get the word out of how to stop these people.
Last month, the I-Team tracked roughly 24 cases across the country and raised the question, why don't doctors who treat patients in the emergency room or private offices have to call in law enforcement unless someone dies? The Federal Drug Administration's criminal investigators often handle those cases.
We know there were instances where people were hospitalized and it didn't get reported. It would be very helpful to have the information.
The FDA has launched a campaign called Check Before You Inject. So concerned about the rise in silicone injections, it wants to educate the public that shots for body contouring are all illegal and dangerous. The agency also posted an online portal to report people who are giving the shots.
I don't think it's well known among our members that the FDA has that site.
As a doctor, do you feel a duty to put a stop to criminal activity when you know it's happened?
Well, where I can, I'd love to.
He says it shouldn't be mandatory because that might deter patients from getting medical treatment if they don't want to report it criminally. But he thinks there's a good chance doctors could convince patients who've been harmed to help stop it from happening to anyone else. At the American Society of Plastic Surgeons board meeting this weekend, the Patient Education Committee will look for concrete ways to make that happen.
But I think the answer is really empowering patients and helping them to step forward and giving them the courage.
The News 4 I-Team has learned a fake medical professional accused in the silicone injection death of a Maryland woman won't face more than a year in jail if convicted. Prosecutors made that promise in an effort to get a judge in England to send the woman back here to stand trial. Investigative reporter Jody Fleischer is in our newsroom with the decision. Jody?
Doreen, the judge in London issued this ruling this morning saying Donna Francis should have to return to the U.S. and face charges, including criminally negligent homicide and unauthorized practice of a profession. Her attorneys were fighting extradition, arguing poor jail conditions here, but the judge didn't buy that. We tracked Francis down in London last year.
We'd like to ask you about the death of Kelly Mayhew.
Neither she nor her attorney wanted to comment back then. New York detectives told the I-Team Donna Francis fled her makeshift office in a Queens basement and then boarded a plane shortly after Kelly Mayhew died. That was more than 3 years ago. Francis has been living in London ever since. Detectives say she injected several syringes of liquid silicone into the BET producer's buttocks. Francis was eventually arrested in London and has been out on bail. Detectives told the I-Team she needs to be held accountable.
It is frustrating because they're out of the country, so you're dealing with a whole different process. And the process took a lot longer than we thought or that we're accustomed to.
Now, liquid silicone is not approved for cosmetic use anywhere on the body. Doctors say it can be deadly when a tiny ball of the liquid travels through the bloodstream. Now, the judge's extradition ruling will now go to the UK Secretary of State for approval. Then Francis will have a chance to appeal, so it will still be several months before anything happens. Jody Fleischer, News 4 I-Team.